Well, for more on the story, we're joined by Rami Khouri. He's a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. Really good to have you back with us, Rami. Can we begin with these now apparently stalled ceasefire talks? We know that earlier in the week there was a bit of optimism being expressed by the likes of the US President Donald Trump that perhaps we were on the verge of a ceasefire. What do you believe changed between now and then?
Well, the facts emerged is what changed, and the real Israeli position emerged. The steadfast Palestinian position was made clear, and the confusion in the United States position became clear. The difficulty here is that the Israelis and the Palestinians will not be able to reach an agreement by themselves. They're too far apart. The Americans are the only party right now that can influence the talks, the discussions, the negotiations. They tend to side with the Israelis on almost everything, including carrying out the genocide and the starvation siege. But they do try, in some cases, to bring the two sides closer together, mainly so that they can be an exchange of hostages and thousands of Palestinian prisoners. So the U.S. is the critical player, and the U.S. doesn't have a clear policy, doesn't have a clear strategy, is not even-handed. And when it tries to be helpful, as Trump did last week by saying he would personally guarantee with a personal signature and announcing the agreement himself, that the Israelis, if they get into the ceasefire, they will not resume the fighting until the negotiations reach a full permanent end of the war. The problem with that, though it sounds good, and in theory it is good, because the U.S. is the only party that can influence the Israelis, the reality is that nobody trusts the Americans. The United States is not trusted anymore because it's broken so many agreements and pledges. And we saw in the ceasefire in Lebanon months ago, where the U.S. and France were supposed to oversee the compliance on both sides, and the Israelis have continued to bomb in Lebanon, occupy land, kill people. Therefore, the U.S., even though it tries to be a mediator, is unable structurally and politically to be a credible mediator. So we're at this impasse right now, but the Israelis desperately need to have some achievements because they're losing face on almost every other aspect of their interactions across the region.
There are reports now that Benjamin Netanyahu is summoning his far-right ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich on a possible ceasefire deal. Those hardline ministers are seen as perhaps two figures who are obstructing any sort of a ceasefire deal. What do you believe will happen as a result of these talks? And how far are we, in your view, from a potential ceasefire deal being announced?
I think the ceasefire is not close, but it's not impossible either. For the simple reason that virtually everybody, including the Israelis, the Americans, the Palestinians, everybody wants a ceasefire. And most of the Israeli people want a ceasefire, mainly to get the hostages back and to end this terrible war that's hurting them in so many ways, as well as it's hurting the Palestinians. But it's not going to happen quickly because the Prime Minister Netanyahu is a master of theatrics and deception. And he's dealing with two right-wing political leaders who are critical to his majority in the cabinet, who are also, sort of bad characters. They openly call for ethnic cleansing to get the Palestinians out, kill them all, recolonize Gaza. But he has to make some kind of deal with them. Possibly one of them will quit and the other will stay. They want the war to continue even after a ceasefire. There will be theatrics. There may be a little shift in adjustment in the coalition, but I don't think we're going to see a substantial change in what Israel is trying to do, which is to assert perpetual sovereignty over Gaza and to come up with a victory of sorts that Netanyahu can sell to the Israeli people. There was a poll that just came out a few days ago by the Pew Research Group in the US, which is very respectable, a poll of 24 countries around the world in the last couple of months, showing that the vast majority of them had a negative view of Israel, and this negative view has been increasing. Only 3 of the 24 countries had a positive view of Israel. So Israel is really in trouble globally and with public opinion. It's in trouble at home with its own peoples. The Palestinians are not surrendering. The Iranians did not surrender. Hezbollah is not surrendering. Ansarullah in Yemen is not surrendering. They're unable to translate their massive military power, the Israeli power, which is linked to U.S. power, they're unable to translate that into a submission by the foes they face, Arabs and Iranians. They can't get them to give up. They can't get them to surrender. They can't get them to leave. And they don't know what to do. So they're trying with this negotiation to reassert some kind of power and show a success that Netanyahu can then take home, get 10 hostages back right away, and maybe that will move things forward down the road.
Okay, Rami Khouri, we'll have to leave it there. Great to get your thoughts as always. Thank you.
Thank you.